Kamaru Usman, he just put on a y'all must have forgot type of performance in the main event of UFC Atlanta. And that is because over the course of this 25-minute main event, Kamaru Usman held control time for nearly 13 minutes, over half the amount of allotted time. 4 takedowns, with each 4 of them keeping Buckley on the ground once he got him there and outlanding him 137-51, with a majority of those coming with vicious ground and pound strikes. And that led to a unanimous decision across the board with 2 49-46 scorecards and somehow a 48-47. Not quite sure how we got to that one. And that 49-46 scorecard comes after a very good round for Joaquin Buckley in the 5th and final, because he was able to keep the fight standing, stuff the takedowns in that round from the former champ Kamaru, and land some pretty good shots overall, but nothing that really put Usman in danger. But Joaquin knew he had to go for broke after being down 4-0. But the night does belong to the former champion, the former 15-fight win streak, 5 title defense veteran, and 38 years young Kamaru Usman. What a great bounce-back performance, having not won a fight since November of 2021, entering this one on a 3-fight losing streak, having not fought a single time since October of 2023, nearly 2 years away from the octagon, and he comes out with a performance like this and dismantles someone who is on a 6-fight win streak, 6-0 in the 170-pound weight class in Buckley, who had finished Colby Covington, who had finished Vicente Luque, who had finished Stephen Wonderboy Thompson en route to this main event. Wow.
What a hole.
And I'm going to be honest, I let the storylines get the better of me heading into this fight. I felt that with the layoff, with the age, with the miles on the clock of Kamaru, and all of the momentum of Buckley, being the younger man at 31, feeling that he was going to be much more athletic and explosive than that of Usman, I was really leaning strong into Joaquin Buckley. Not only did I have him on a parlay with Rose Namajunas, which of course hurts in hindsight because Rose won her fight that we're going to get into, but then I doubled down and bet the point spread on Joaquin Buckley as the night progressed forward to try and come out with some positive momentum on the betting side of things, and it bit me in the ass. But to be fair, to save some face for me just a little bit, I did say on Friday that if anyone is going to be capable of stopping Joaquin Buckley's momentum, it would be someone like Kamaru Usman, who has had all of the credentials, all of the high-level names on his resume, all of the experience, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, and finishes of some of the best fighters in the world when he fought them. And that is exactly what we see here in the aftermath of UFC Atlanta, as Usman is back into title contention. He holds his number 5 spot in the world and proved that he is still amongst one of the best 170-pound fighters on planet Earth today. And quickly for Buckley, before we talk about what can be next for Kamaru, I think it was clear over the course of this 6-fight win streak at 170 pounds just how good he is, just how explosive and dangerous he is, and really how well-rounded that he is. The problem is that he came across someone in Usman who was ultra prepared for this matchup and was going to look to find success no matter the cost, but it just came much easier than I think a lot of us were expecting for Usman to find here. And if you even go to round 5, we saw the takedown defense. Joaquin Buckley does possess those skills. Technically, he went 9 of 13 in takedown defense, so really it wasn't him keeping the fight standing. The bigger issue, in my opinion, was that once he got down, he couldn't get off of his back. So if he can view this as a learning experience, again at just 31 years old, just now entering those prime years, I still believe that he has a very high ceiling. He has very high potential in this welterweight division, and I think he is a threat for many of the other fighters in this weight class, even Kamaru if they ever get a chance to run it back down the line, which I don't really foresee happening because we don't have many fights left for Kamaru. But you get the point. I still believe in Joaquin Buckley, and he even showed signs of life in this fight, especially in that 5th and final round, not even getting taken down a single time and being a threat in the 23rd, 24th, and 25th minutes where he has never been before, never been in deep waters like Kamaru Usman had done, and he won that 5th and final round. So although there's things for him to hang his hat on, I think he can just as much learn from those mistakes on how to keep the fight standing, on how to get back to his feet once he gets taken down, like he inevitably will again in the future. Then we could right the ship in the Joaquin Buckley camp and continue marching forward in the 170-pound division. But right now, a small setback for maybe a major comeback. And Kamaru entered this on a major setback, and now he sets himself up for a major comeback after this win over Buckley, again, now at number 5 in the world. And in the aftermath, in that post-fight press conference, he expressed his raw emotions and how much that this fight meant to him. He pretty much even stated how all of the noise coming into this fight was affecting him and in his head. He wanted to prove the haters and the doubters wrong. You could tell he took this personally. Kamaru Usman entered this main event with a chip on his shoulder, and the performance speaks for itself. And after being so open and honest with the media in the post-fight press conference, he made it pretty clear what his path is if he were the UFC matchmakers come Tuesday morning for the welterweight division as well.
Buckley can fight Ian Gary, or Buckley can fight Carlos Prates. Sean Brady can fight Shavkat. Me, winner of Islam JDM. Simple.
Not only did he no-sell Belal Muhammad every single time he was asked about him in the post-fight press conference.
Who was it?
Belal Muhammad.
Who was that?
Former welterweight champion Belal Muhammad.
Next.
What about Belal?
Who?
But then he made it clear what he wants next. He wants to face the winner of JDM versus Islam Makhachev, meaning that he believes in his heart he has jumped over Sean Brady, who's coming off of a win and finish over Leon Edwards, the former champion, which means he believes he should jump over the undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov, who has more than earned the opportunity to fight for undisputed gold, setbacks aside. And he feels that he is leaps and bounds ahead of Belal Muhammad, the former champion, as he didn't even give him the light of day after his call out from this main event.
It's a clear #1 contender fight. You know, he's calling for the belt 185, 170, but I'm #1. I'm still the guy at the top. So let's do it. I think you could pick the date, pick the time, the place.
And as much as I want to support Kamaru and I'm happy for this big comeback victory, I don't know if I can get fully on board with this path that he's laying out here in the aftermath. One thing is certain, we're going to see Jack Della Maddalena make the first defense of his welterweight title against Islam Makhachev, moving up from 155 pounds. But does that really mean that Usman should get the winner? I mean, I know all of the credentials that he has, all of the title defenses, the win streak that he had, the names that he's beaten, but he had been away for 2 years. Look how much the welterweight division has changed since the last time that he has fought. All of the people that have rose up the ranks and put themselves from prospect to title contender. Ian Machado Gary is one of them. Shavkat is one of them. Sean Brady is one of them. I personally think that Kamaru Usman should have to fight one more time and then he can get that crack back in the welterweight title. And I think that that fight should be against the man that he has no interest at all in fighting in Belal Muhammad. Two men that rose up alongside one another, truthfully. Kamaru was on a 15-fight win streak up until November of 2021. And that is when Belal Muhammad started his 11-fight unbeaten streak that just ended against Jack Della Maddalena last month at UFC 315. They never fought one another. They fought pretty much everyone else. I mean, look at their resumes. They both have wins over Damian Maia. They both have wins over Stephen Thompson. They both have wins over Gilbert Burns. They both even have wins over Leon Edwards. Don't forget, Kamaru Usman was the man that started that trilogy and won their first bout years ago. So now is the perfect time for both of their paths to finally collide, and the winner will get their rightful shot to become champion once again, which then opens up more doors for some of the other names that we've already discussed, like a Sean Brady and a Shavkat Rakhmonov, who, yes, Kamaru said should fight each other, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but I think that Shavkat should get the winner of the JDM versus Islam fight, meaning Sean should maybe fight someone like an Ian Machado Gary, even though personally, I truthfully feel like neither one of them should have to fight again, but that's just not the case. Someone's going to have to fight again. Maybe it is each other after all. There's no such thing as a division being too stacked and having too much momentum, but if there ever was, it is the welterweight division right now in June of 2025 because there are so many moving pieces. Sean Brady, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Machado Gary, all coming off of victories. Michael Morales even threw his hat in there now, sitting at number 8, who is undefeated, mind you. Then you have Kamaru Usman getting the bounce back win here. You have Belal Muhammad coming off of a title fight lost to Jack Della Maddalena, and you have the new champion, Jack Della Maddalena, versus the lightweight champion super fight between him and Islam Makhachev. I don't know where I'm going. My brain is all over the place in the aftermath of this fight. It's clear what Kamaru wants. So do you agree with him? Do you think that is the play? Is he going to get the winner of JDM versus Islam? Is Sean Brady going to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov? And is Joaquin Buckley, now coming off of this loss, going to fight Ian Machado Gary or Carlos Prates? I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this main event performance from Kamaru down in the comments below. What you think could be next for him and for Joaquin Buckley and everything else that we're talking about right now at 170 pounds, because I love matchmaking and talking about what's next on these recaps, but this is a tough puzzle to solve. Rose Namajunas is now 3-2 in the women's 125-pound weight class after her victory in the co-main event of UFC Atlanta over Miranda Maverick. This was a very fun fight from start to finish, if I'm being honest with you. We had fun exchanges on the feet with moments from Rose Namajunas and even Miranda Maverick hanging around much more than I thought so heading in. And in the grappling exchanges, there were some very, very fun and threatening moments for both women. Rose having Miranda Maverick locked into rear naked choke potential fight-ending submissions. Miranda Maverick flipping position and putting Rose in some potential fight-ending arm triangle positions. This fight had a little bit of everything, and while it was a great bounce-back win for Rose Namajunas to prove that she still belongs, and maybe even for the first time truly belongs in the women's flyweight title fight discussions, Miranda Maverick, even in a losing effort and with an MCL injury finding out in the aftermath, showed that she can compete with the best of the best at 125 pounds after taking this big leap in competition. However, it is Rose who comes out with green on her Sherdog resume here, who comes out with a W in the win column. Again, now 3-2 at 125 pounds. The other two wins were over Tracy Cortez and Amanda Ribas, and those two losses was to Menifield in her flyweight debut, who would go on to fight for the title just recently last month against Valentina Shevchenko in a losing effort, and to Erin Blanchfield, who at that time needed a big bounce back and got it with the biggest win of her career over Rose, the former two-time champion. And with Rose Namajunas' credentials from strawweight and now even here in flyweight through 5 fights, with her name value being one of the most popular female fighters on the entire roster right now, she is 1 win away from a title fight at 125 pounds, but there's a lot of interesting matchups for her and who that next potential win could be against, being that she is still so new to the division. And this division is on fire right now and is filled with storylines in its own right when you compare it to the main event in the welterweight division, because we have Valentina Shevchenko, who is now a 2-time champion and just made her first defense of her second reign over the aforementioned Menifield last month. It seems that she is on the verge of a super fight with the 115-pound strawweight champion and former foe of Rose Namajunas, Zhang Weili, who is also a 2-time champion with numerous title defenses. And on that same night last month at UFC 315, which in hindsight proved to be a pivotal point in the women's flyweight division's history in cementing seeds moving forward for the future, Natalia Silva got a victory on that card, jumped from number 5 to number 1 in the rankings, and is 7-0 in the UFC. And we saw Jasmine Jasudavicius get her 5th win in a row and finish the former champion Jessica Andrade. And just 2 weeks ago, Erin Blanchfield was supposed to be in the main event against Macy Barber for the flyweight division, number 4 versus number 5, before Macy Barber got pulled just minutes before the fight was supposed to begin. And of course, Erin's last victory, since she didn't get to fight Macy, was over Thug Rose. There are truly so many different matchups that you could do with just those top 7 women in the flyweight division. So let me just talk to you here, talk my thoughts through it, and I of course want to hear your thoughts on this situation as well down below. My immediate thoughts went this direction in the aftermath of UFC Atlanta and Rose's win over Miranda. I'm assuming that Valentina Shevchenko is going to defend her title in a super fight next against Zhang Weili, more than likely before the end of the year, and if all goes to plan in terms of what I want to see, it's the biggest night in women's MMA history, the final pay-per-view of 2025, main event Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison, co-main event Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili. Please, UFC, make it happen. I'm not going to stop beating that drum. Then I would do Natalia Silva, who is currently number 1 in the division and undefeated in the UFC, versus Erin Blanchfield, who sits at number 4 and is ready to fight after losing her main event opportunity against Macy Barber. The winner of that would go on to be the true solidified number 1 contender, waiting the winner of Shevchenko versus Weili. And then I would do Jasmine Jasudavicius on a 5-fight win streak versus Rose Namajunas, number 6 versus number 7, so the numbers aren't as high or low technically as they maybe should be, but that is a very, very important fight that would grant us another title contender in the aftermath of it, regardless of who wins. Then I think you could do 2 women coming off of losses like Menifield versus Alexa Grasso, which then would technically leave Macy Barber in lingo without an opponent, but it seems that she has a lot of things to get in order before she'll be able to get back into the octagon again. So you would have the former champion in Grasso versus the former title challenger in Menifield, number 2 versus number 3, both coming off of losses. That fight seems to make sense. But for what it's worth, Rose Namajunas did mention Alexa Grasso's name in the post-fight press conference as well.
The Alexa Grasso fight would be fun.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I was in Invicta and she was like still coming up and she came up to me and was like, "Oh, I love you so much. You know, like you're such a inspiration, and now she's like, became champion in this weight class, and then so yeah, that would be kind of crazy to see us, so maybe that happens. I don't know.
And while I'm not necessarily opposed to that fight happening, I think the first path that we laid out for all of the women makes more sense, especially in terms of solidifying true title contenders, all with wins and momentum. But of course, I want to hear from you all down in the comments below. How would you match make the top 7 at 125 pounds right now? We saw one of the bigger betting upsets of the year in terms of number, plus 500, maybe even more depending on what sportsbook you use, as Alonzo Menifield took the perfect record away from Oumar C and kept his spot alive in the top 15 of the light heavyweight division in what was his 16th UFC fight for the veteran. I was very high on the undefeated Frenchman Oumar C heading into this fight, even bet him to win in under 2.5 rounds, meaning I felt he was going to win by finish. But in the aftermath, boy was I proved wrong, as he really kind of laid a dud here in this fight. But I mean, I'm not trying to talk bad or disrespect him either, because it's not like Alonzo Menifield is just some nobody. He's been ranked for probably years at this point and fought a much higher caliber of competition compared to C. He had been in there with Misha Serkinov, Jimmy Crute twice, Dustin Jacoby, Carlos Alberg, and Azamat Murzakanov. Not to mention Paul Craig and Ovent St. Preux in his early days of the UFC back in 2019 and 2020 as well. So maybe that plus 500 underdog betting tag was a bit too steep heading into this one, and I hope for some of you bettors out there you took advantage of that number and cashed big tickets on Saturday. If you did, please be sure to let me know. And low-key, I'm totally jealous of you, by the way. So now, unfortunately for the 205-pound division, the biggest, most promising prospect that I felt that the division had heading into Saturday has now been squandered. His momentum is gone, and so is his perfect record. Alonzo Menifield, number 15 in the world at 37 years old. I don't think he's going to be climbing his way all the way to a title shot, so there isn't a ton storyline-wise to do in the aftermath of this one. Maybe Oumar C can, of course, bounce back. I believe he's not even 30 years old yet. As a matter of fact, he's only 29, and that was his 12th total fight of his professional career. The guy's built like an absolute statue, chiseled out of marble. I still believe in his potential. He can get it done in multiple facets of the game, but he just wasn't ready for that fight against the veteran in Menifield. I think it was a little bit too much too soon. Maybe Menifield will get the opportunity to fight someone like a Bogdan Guskov or a Volkan Oezdemir next, maybe get an opportunity to climb a few spots in the rankings, and for all we know, at 37, maybe he can put together one hell of a run. But I'll tell you one heavy favorite and undefeated prospect that absolutely delivered with little to no adversity whatsoever. That was Malcolm Wellmaker, who came in at a near minus 2,000 favorite in his home state of Georgia. He's from Augusta. This event was in Atlanta. He had the crowd in the palm of his hand for the second that he stepped out of that curtain to walk to the cage, and the performance backed it up as well with a brutal one-punch knockout over Kris Moutinho. This guy really may be the real deal. He's not like other young undefeated prospects who are like 23, 24 and still have so much time to grow. He's 31. He's in those prime years. He's got 10 victories with 8 finishes, 6 of them by knockout. 2 now in the first round, his first 2 UFC bouts, a Contender Series win in the first round by knockout as well. But he doesn't just rush in for the kill. You can even look at this 2-minute and 37-second bout that he had with Kris Moutinho. Yes, he was looking for the big shot, but he wasn't forcing anything. He wasn't putting himself in danger. He was being defensively sound, and when he saw that opening and brought that hook across, he has devastating one-punch knockout power, especially at this 135-pound weight class. And he's so well spoken. He's very humble and respectful, and you can tell just how much he loves this fight game. He just welcomed a baby into the world. He was able to quit his job after his first UFC win over Cameron Simon to focus full time on mixed martial arts. He's got the stories behind him that people want to see and people want to back him moving forward, and I'm absolutely going to be one of them. You have to keep your eyes on Malcolm Wellmaker, who is well on his way to being the newcomer of the year in 2025. Peru's Jose Ochoa got his first UFC victory after starting 0-1 in the promotion in November of 2024 with a decision loss to Lonier Kavanaugh, and he made good on this one by taking a big step up in competition from Kavanaugh to Cody Durden, if I'm being quite honest with you, because Durden's been in there with the who's who of 125 pounds, and he went to war with Durden. That first round was insanely fun to watch, and then when that second bell rang to start round number 2, it took him 11 seconds to find the perfect knockout knockout blow to put Cody Durden away. He's 24 years old, 8-1 with a 100% finish rate, 7 of the 8 finishes by way of knockout. And after winning against Cody Durden, you best believe he only needs one more win, 2 maximum, before he's fighting a top 15 opponent. Cody Durden is likely, number 16 or number 17 to begin with. He might even be fighting a top 15 opponent in his 3rd UFC bout. And last but not least, the Fresh Prince.
Now the Prince of Bel-Air.
Phil Rowe picked up his 11th victory of his career, the 11th finish of his career, his 7th knockout, 4 submissions. That equals a 100% finish rate, and he did it over Ange, who had never been finished before in his career, which now holds 5 total losses. Oh, and by the way, he didn't just come in and knock him out in the first round and leave. He was down in this fight, nearly being finished in his own a couple of times. Ange was pouring it on with the grappling and controlling him up against the fence, but Rowe was able to survive. He was able to outlast Loosa. Loosa clearly was getting gassed in that 3rd round, and Phil Rowe had one of the best comebacks of 2025 so far, and ultimately would get the TKO at the 4-minute and 3rd second of round number 3 with just 57 seconds to go before he was going to lose a decision on the scorecards. And it's a big win for him because he was on a 2-fight skid heading into this with losses to Jake Matthews and Neil Magny. But before that 2-fight losing streak, he was 3-1 in the UFC. He's still just 34 years old, so kinda sorta still in those prime years. He still has an opportunity to make some noise before it's too late in, you guessed it, the 170-pound welterweight division. So that is it for today's UFC Atlanta recap, and I want to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below on your matchmaking, on your takeaways from UFC Atlanta. What's next for Kamaru Usman? What's next for Joaquin Buckley? What's next for Namajunas? And what did you make of some of the other fun performances on this card? If you enjoyed this recap, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, as we continue to chase the goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2025, on top of weekly recaps of the most meaningful results from every card. Heading into each weekend, I break down the most fun fights and discuss the biggest storylines and what is at stake, and I give my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements. You can also join the community on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as like the Facebook page Verbal Sparring MMA, and you can follow on your favorite audio listening platforms such as Spotify and Apple, where every Monday and Friday podcast episodes release there. Have a great week, and I will see you all in the next video.